Hello, listeners, and welcome back to a new episode of the Cult Vault podcast. I'm your host, Kacey, and as usual, I do have to plug my favourite event of the year before we jump into the episode. CrimeCon UK is taking place this year in London on the 3rd and 4th of October. Part education, part advocacy, part discovery. It's the ultimate true crime event. And you can experience the true crime genre like you've never experienced it before. There are world-renowned experts, fascinating deep dives, and raw, honest conversation. It's always a brilliant time to meet new people and catch up with friends. If you're interested in taking part in the biggest UK true crime event of the year, you can find your tickets today at www.crimecon.co.uk, and you can use the code CULT, C-U-L-T, for a 10% discount at the checkout, or follow the link in the episode description. And now on to the show. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Cult Vault podcast. I am your host, Kacey, and today we are not talking about films or books. We are speaking to somebody who has the experience of losing a loved one to a cultic environment. Hello, Cheryl, and welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
I would love to. Thank you so much, Kacey, for having me on. I'm Cheryl Tupa. I'm also known in the YouTube world as Cyber Chick Boston, and I am a cybersecurity professional. I've been in cybersecurity for 28 years, and to our surprise, my family's surprise, our niece got caught up in the cult Twin Flames universe. And what you'll hear in my story is how we're a very close-knit family. We all grew up in New England. We're all in each other's lives, and we were shocked that this happened to us. And we also were in an Amazon documentary called Desperately Seeking Soulmate, Escaping Twin Flames. And we were the Boston family. And I started my YouTube channel in October to bring awareness to cults. Because if you told me 10 years ago, I'd be saying the word cult, I would have thought you were crazy. It's not something I'm familiar with. It snuck up on us. And we've got nurses, we've got cybersecurity specialists, we've got all sorts of professions in our family. And we were oblivious to it. So it could happen to anyone.
To be a cybersecurity specialist and to have a loved one become involved in a kind of digitally coercive situation is kind of like two sides of the same. It's like both sides of the mirror, or both sides, both points of view.
And I'm not the only cybersecurity. It runs in my family. My sister is a cybersecurity specialist, my nieces, and you're absolutely right. This is an online scam that, as the world has evolved, everything has become digital, especially with the pandemic. And you would have thought that we would have had the knowledge to recognize, react, and stop it. And we didn't. So we're just here to, but we're the victims. So I don't blame my niece. I don't blame the family. But what I can do is spread awareness to the community.
Right. And as you said, show that even with all the knowledge in the world, all of us are susceptible to scams, to fraud, to coercive and controlling behavior, which I'm really looking forward to diving into the ins and outs of that today. I just want to say before we get really into the meat and potatoes of everything, your glasses, nails, and microphone all match, and it is like such a vibe. I'm enjoying it.
My tattoos match too. I'm really blue. I love blue. I know. Thank you. I get that a lot, even at work, even when I'm starting a meeting or presentation, I get that feedback. So thank you.
It's like the same shade of blue as well, though. It's all tied together. It's lovely.
It's all tied together. It takes a lot of work.
So for anybody that is listening that isn't aware of the Twin Flames universe, Can you give us an overview of what the group is, how they became established, It's like we talk a lot about digital cults at the moment with the rise of the digital age, but it's kind of like a hybrid cult as well. There are aspects of in-person stuff, but more so on the digital side. So it's a complicated one, and you're probably the best person to give us an overview of an outsider's perspective as to what the Twin Flames universe is.
Yeah, so I'd never heard of twin flames universe. Of course, I heard of the concept of finding your twin flame, which they build this concept on, and it's evolved. It's not something that just started one day. It became basically two scammers who, one is it was in 2000, I want to say 2012, but I could have the date wrong. Jeff it moved to Hawaii, Jeff Allen. He's had several names. Now he's Jeff Devine, went to business school, and he basically met up with Shaleia, again, not her name. Her real name is Megan. And they just decided that they were in a twin flame. And wouldn't it be great if we could help other people achieve that goal in a relationship? So they founded Twin Flames Universe in 2017. And basically, what it was, we're doing so well at our relationship. Let's coach other people. So it started simply as like a version of a school, a universe where they sold courses and everything was done online. And through that, they began selling not only courses, but coaching and mentoring. But what's really important is, as I mentioned, Twin Flames existed long before Jeff and Shaleia, but they just monetized it that in a way that was conducive to their environment. So, with any cult or community or pyramid, you have leaders at the top, and they were always at the top. They were always making, it's similar to a MLM, honestly, or a Ponzi scheme. They needed revenue generating activities below them that was always feeding up. And former members have spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And the great thing about a universe is you can constantly create a new course and say, and courses range anywhere from hundreds to $10,000 for the ultimate course. And the promise at the end of Twin Flames Universe, after you take all these courses, is that you are going to find your soulmate. It's guaranteed. And another thing that they did was they sucked the community in to do free labor. Another thing very common with cults. So you've got free labor, you've got your community paying for things. And as they evolved, they added additional subsidiaries like Divine Dish, which is a concept that you pay a monthly fee of hundreds of dollars and you got a weekly menu. You didn't get food, you didn't get a cook, you got a menu. And then they decided at one point, I think it was 2019, that they would evolve into a church because how convenient, tax-free. We're spiritual leaders because Jeff decided along the way that he was the second coming of Christ. And again, everything can be funneled through the church for revenue purposes and they don't have to pay taxes. And the whole time it's online advertising and marketing and reaching out to other people, and they really built their platform online. However, they had a few in-person meetups, but the community had to pay for that. They had to pay their own way. They had to pay the registration fee. They had to pay for special sessions with Jeff and Shaleia, and they had to pay for like even having their picture taken. So everything comes down to money. I hope that was an okay overview of it.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It sounds like you've done that a time or two before, kind of the overview of the Twin Flames universe. I think it shows your YouTube work coming into play.
Yeah, I was actually on a Little Bit Culty podcast in December. So I've gotten I don't want to say I have a talk track, but I've gotten used to the first time I did my YouTube. I'll be honest with you, I just sat down and just like didn't know where to go. So I called it, the word vomit all over Twin Flames universe, but I've polished it a little bit because a couple of things happen when you talk about this. You freak people out. Like, trigger warning for anyone, your audience is probably used to this, but if you don't know what they do and how, there's mind control, there's forced gender transition, there's labor, like there's a lot of abuse. And some people, it's too much for them. So I've sort of figured out a way how to paint the picture of what they do. And then I like to spend some time talking about how Brianna and what Brianna was like, and how she fell into this horrific thing. Because when people watch the documentary, I would read the comments on Reddit and on Prime, and they would say, well, that wouldn't happen in my family, or she must have been autistic. There was something wrong with her. Brianna was beautiful. She was a professional. She was educated. She was creative. She's a singer. She was everything you would expect a 24, 25-year-old to be.
Before we dive into Brianna's story and how you first heard about the Twin Flames universe, I just wanted to ask if you could clarify some stuff about the operation itself so that we have some more context diving
100%.
into
Yeah.
all of the ins and outs. You mentioned that when these courses were promoted or marketed through the Twin Flames platforms, there was a promised end goal that you would find your twin flame. And a lot of the time, when cults have a rigid belief system with a target or goal to reach, it's usually like a dangling carrot approach. Like, you just have to do this thing and you just have to do this thing. Do you believe that that was how it was set up? You'd finish a course and be kind of funneled into the next course or funneled into the next thing that you had to pay for?
Yep, they were always building upon, in the next course, you will learn this in the next course. And then if the person's not successful, they don't blame themselves or the course, they blame you. You're blocked. So now we have to pay to do the mirror exercise and you own it. It's all your fault. You're not doing it right. Or it's your ancestors' fault, like something in your life in the past that happened. Yeah, there's always someone to blame, but there's always another reason to spend more money. 100%.
The courses themselves, looking at the website, I haven't looked at the website for a long time, but the last time that I did, there are hundreds of things that you can buy, hundreds of different things, from PDF documents to subscriptions that roll over to, the courses themselves. Have you looked at any of the material, and can you give us an idea of what the courses look like? Are they video recordings, audio recordings? And how would you, if you were inside the Twin Flames universe, how would you kind of consume that content that you've paid for?
All of the above. They would do video recordings, but a lot of them were online classes with other coaches. And Jeff and Shaleia would also teach some of the classes, and those would be really pricey classes. And they're online, and they were they were a few of them were recorded, but some of them were just, just like coaching classes. And they could have it 50 to 100 people in them. And if you got down to a class where there were 10 people, now you're paying $5,000. Or you could even pay to go and spend time with Jeff and Shaleia in a boot camp. And that's a lot of money, like spend 6 weeks with them and really learn. But that's $15,000. So it was all driven by money.
I'm going to guess by things you've said already that you could pay to be trained to be a Twin Flames universe coach, and then you would do those coaching sessions probably for free or discounts on other products that they sell.
So the way the coaching worked is you were incentivized to try to be a coach, and there were different rankings, and you charged for that, and then you gave the money to Jeff and Shaleia. When people started to complain, they would let them keep fees, like half of it or a quarter of it.
Okay. And how did you first hear about the Twin Flames universe?
So Brianna was about 24, almost 25, when she was in a relationship, living with friends and her brother in a city outside of Boston, Mass. And I had gotten her, she was a teacher, and she wasn't loving what we'll get into Brianna later. She has a great story. But she Googled one night, how do you know you are with your soulmate? And that Google search took her into the Twin Flames universe and the love and the immediate connection she felt. So she told us about it. But to be honest with you, it didn't even register with me. I didn't even think of the name till months later when we were on vacation and she was talking so much about it. And I'm like, what is it? Tell me again. And her brother came to us. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. We're very close. We all live in New England. 3 of us sisters live in the same town. So 9 of the cousins went through the same school system. Brianna was one of them. So we're in each other's business, right? And her brother came to us and said, I'm concerned. Brianna's doing weird stuff online. And we're like, oh, leave her alone. Why are you picking on Brianna? Like, she's fine. She found friends. We thought it was just online. Like, people are into YouTube or people are into CrossFit, and she found a connection. And it wasn't until we all vacationed together, all 20 of us, and we were at the beach and she just was doing mirror exercises. And it was, oh, but again, we weren't over, I didn't investigate it. I should have. I should have said, what is this? But she's 25 at this point, working, fine, happy, thriving, and she's got a community that she's involved in. So that was the one thing I wish I did. I wish I paused. I wish I joined. I wish I investigated right then and there. But none of us were concerned at that point. So that's the first time I heard about it. But I didn't know what it was.
I mean, there's a big shift, I think, in kind of spirituality and spiritual practices that you might associate with meditation and yoga. And a lot of people do yoga, stretching, Pilates on a day-to-day basis. People take up kind of different cultured diets. And so I think a lot of that is so much in the mainstream these days, rather than part of a counterculture that it might have been considered, a few decades ago, that I don't think it is a thing you would question. Mirror exercises on a beach.
Self-help. It wasn't, there were no red flags at that point. There were some red flags now that we look back. She was saying,
Okay.
I think maybe I'm supposed to be with this gentleman that she hadn't talked to in a year. And she was going to go and spend time in his town. And we're like, have you talked to him? And she goes, no, but I'm thinking he's my soulmate. They used to tell people, if you've met your soulmate, you need to show up. You show up at his workplace, you show up at his house, even if he's married. Like, you go after him because he needs to know that you're his soulmate. So that, looking back on it, we were like, oh, that's interesting, but we didn't investigate deeply.
When did that change for you? When did things come a little bit more along the lines of, oh, I think we need to pay maybe a bit more attention here?
Well, March of 2020, when the United States, the world was shutting down for the pandemic, at the end of March, she showed up at her mother's house with her puppy and said, can you watch Mookie for me? Jeff and Shaleia had a vision that I'm supposed to go to LA and be with Gretchen, my soulmate. And her mother's a nurse, and said, you can't go to LA. The country's shutting down. It's not safe. And are you sure it's your soulmate? Are you a lesbian? We've never, talked about it. How do you know it's your soulmate? And it's, Lynn is so fabulous, and she's super sensitive. She doesn't want anyone to think this has anything to do with like a phobia. If this isn't about gays or trans, this is about, how can he tell you that you're supposed to be with Gretchen? And Brianna said, I am not a lesbian. Gretchen is a masculine form, a male. How the hell do you say it? Gretchen is a male person trapped in a female form. And we were just like, what? So that was red flags all over the place. Lynn did a conference call with all the sisters, and we immediately said that we have a problem here. Like, so I took on the cybersecurity role and went very deep in all their stuff. Other people, we reached out to a cult consultant. I knew within 24 hours, this was a cult, by former members, content online, the craziness that is him telling her he had a vision and now she's going to go be with Gretchen. And the reason they were doing that at this point was community members weren't finding their soulmates. And that's a problem. right? Because it's bad for business if you make a promise and 2 years later, people are not having any luck. And he's like, if I have visions and can pair people up, that'll work, except 80% of the community were women. So we had to do
Right.
coerce, mind control and forced gender transition.
So Gretchen at this point is a member of the Twin Flames universe.
Friends with
and
Brianna.
they've been paired.
They've been friends,
Right.
but no feelings romantically at all.
That's such a tricky one, because if it goes back to what you said before about the efficacy of the courses, if you haven't found your twin flame after completing some of the content or courses that promised you that would happen, and it's redirected as a fault of your own, not of the people making the content or leading the courses, then if Brianna and Gretchen are together and they don't feel like they are each other's twin flame, that is going to be a reflection on them, I imagine, and not a reflection on Jeff's vision that he's had.
Right. That's a really good point. Well, what was interesting is Gretchen and Brianna were not compatible. You could see it. They would do YouTube presentations, and that gave us hope that they just did not like each other at all, and they knew they were being forced into it. What I did, besides researching and talking immediately, and thank you to all the ex-members that helped, including, I mentioned a little bit, Culty, Sarah and Nippy they were the whistleblowers you probably know of, Nexium, and they had just started their podcast, and I reached out to them, and they were so kind. People in your community can't help because they don't know what a cult, like how to deal with it. So you have to talk to people who have been around cults, and there's, the medical field, the law enforcements, the psychiatry. They're few and far between that have dealt with cults. So we had to do our research. We hired a cult consultant, Lynn did, Brianna's mother. I got in touch with ex-members and was so grateful for the help that they gave us. And I tracked down Gretchen's family, hoping we could unite and go into, and find out what was going on. They were kind of estranged. They weren't interested. It was too much for them. I ended up talking to her brother, who was only 21 at the time, and I overwhelmed him. So he's like, how did you find me? What? He goes, yeah, we're concerned, but we're not going to get involved. And I said, okay, we were getting involved. We weren't letting it go.
I love that Lynn rallied the troops. She was like, come on, sisters.
She rallied
Let's get together.
Everyone. She was
so good.
She was so strong. So she created a virtual team. It was the sisters, it was cousins, it was a college roommate who had no idea what was going on. It was different people who could play a different role, even if it was just pinging Brianna. Hey, haven't heard from you. We didn't want to lose connection with Brianna.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the most important things, isn't it? You can rally the troops, but you have to do it in such a delicate way that you don't fracture any relationships further by, kind of reinforcing the cult's message that your family are bad, your loved ones are bad, anyone that is outside of this group is bad, anyone that disagrees or questions is bad.
That's exactly what they were doing, Kacey. I did call her up,
right.
And I said, I swore, I said, what the F are you doing? You're so smart. Like I went in hard, and she blocked me. But that's okay, because we knew that other people, like, that was an okay thing, because someone had to do it. And I was like, I'll do it. And she eventually came back and unblocked me. So only 2 months later, she loved the family. That I think has saved her, was all people say, like, what did you do? We did, everyone's initial reaction was to do what I did, yell at her and scream at her and say, get home, and force her. And you have to do the opposite. You have to be a soft landing. You have to love bomb her. Tell me more. Oh, really? You're supposed to be with Gretchen? It went against everything we could muster up.
It's so counterintuitive, but it really is the safest option. Or you risk her blocking all the family, and then you don't know how she's doing, what her welfare's like. If she has gone over to LA and she's moved away from that, really tight-knit support network that you've talked about, then you don't have eyes on her or ears on her, and you don't know if her physical safety as well as her psychological and emotional safety is okay. It's a whole complicated thing, and I think the most natural reaction is the one that you had. But this is the thing about researching cults, kind of going from 0 to 100. You mentioned before that if somebody would have used the word cult with you before all of this, you would have thought about really crazy things that seem stranger than fiction. But when you start to research cults, I think the things that you find, first of all, and you'll be able to tell us from your own experience, is the darkest, most heinous, infamous cult stories that are out in the world. It's only when you get a little bit deeper that you can start to pull the kind of more nuanced commonalities between something like Jim Jones and the People's Temple and the Twin Flames universe. There will be similarities there, but is it in your mind when you're researching that some of the most darkest and difficult things that have happened in cults could now be happening to your niece?
100%. We were so worried. So there was a point because she knew that she was getting, and I didn't know if you wanted me to share pictures of her in the process at all, or because I have them. It's up to you if you want me to.
She is comfortable with that, and
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have her permission, that would be great.
Yeah, I do. So, but I do want to show you because, and the reason she's okay is because they were using them. So I think as we go through the story, it'll be interesting for everyone to kind of see, oh, that's what she looked like. Okay. Yeah. So Brianna's the dark-haired girl, and Gretchen is blonde on the left when I'm looking at it. And this is what we first saw after she went to LA. And you'll notice Gretchen is still Gretchen, and Brianna's gorgeous, and Gretchen's gorgeous. And I believe that Jeff and Shaleia thought this is going to be great. They're going to be the poster child because Brianna was energetic. She did a lot for that community on the website. She's in technology. And this is the first time we saw Gretchen, and it said congratulations. And this is when I was swearing, and I said, did you get married? And this just means they were blessed to be married if they wanted to. Okay. So that was the beginning. And then but I would watch them online and they would not be compatible. That gave me hope. And then because they weren't getting along so well, after a month, they went to Jeff and Shaleia's in Michigan for boot camp, for a 6-week boot camp. We thought they paid for it, but I don't know now. I think Brianna has come out and said, no, you usually have to pay, but they waived the fee. It's just them alone, and they were documenting it. Basically, it was free labor. Brianna was doing all the housework. Gretchen was learning to become a man, how to smoke a cigar. It was so awkward. How to shop for manly clothes, how to trim your it was so cringe, and I wish I downloaded it. I just didn't have the strength to record it. I was just like, I don't want this. I couldn't see a point of ever having it, although the consultant said download everything, and I just didn't want it, but I should have. So we kind of lost touch with her, and we were like, what is she doing in Michigan for 6 weeks? We didn't have eyes on her. And then Brianna called us and said, Vanity Fair is going to do an article on us. We're really big. It's coming. Everything's coming through true. And the world's going to know about Twin Flames universe. She was so excited. So I called the reporter, Alice Hynes, and said, we have not had eyes or ears on Brianna. I understand you're going there. We are concerned. And she called me right away. She was so great. And she said, send me your questions. I want to know, is she being abused? Is she on drugs? Is she being held? Like, what's her energy level? So I will always be appreciative to Alice Hynes but she said, I'm going to do a piece on what I see. Like, I'm going in with no preconceived notions, and I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to investigate. And then I don't know if you've seen the Vanity Fair article that came out from that, and the subsequent, there was a interview. It was cringeworthy. It's not, you can find it online, but it's not, I tried to show it on my show, and the audio's horrible, but you could listen to it and see how cringeworthy. If you type Allison Hynes interviews Jeff Devine, it'll pop up Not great content for your show, but really good for you to just see how awkward it was. And he's deleted it or made it private, so that's why it's hard to find it.
It's kind of like a roundabout way of doing a welfare check. Because if we go back to not wanting to cause that, further divide and reinforce the relationship between the cult leader and the people in the group, I mean, that's a really smart way of being able to have somebody report back to you on, the physical presentation of your loved one, the mannerisms, the language, and how they seem to be. Everything's very staged. When journalists are allowed in behind the curtain, it's all very coached, staged, rehearsed. But at least you can have a physical identification of her well-being, which is really important, because if you call the police and you send the police there, again you're risking that kind of shutdown of relationships. So what a smart way to get an idea of how she is.
I did call the police, but I did. Alice was there for 3 days. She stayed at a hotel, but it was a 3-day interview, which I loved. I called the police and they went there, but do you want to be here? She's an adult. Is everything okay? We're concerned. We're doing a welfare check. Yep, I'm fine. I want to be here. So the police were great in the sense that they said, we've had multiple complaints. You should contact the FBI. So we contacted the FBI, but it's a one-way street. You're giving them, and I'm happy to do it, but you're not getting anything back. So you're not sure and it's a long
Right.
process. It's a long process.
So when you're researching cults initially and you're reading all of these stories about, what is a cult, and you're probably reading things about, Heaven's Gate, stuff about David Koresh is probably coming up, and stuff about Nexium, Sarah Nippy's
Yep.
story. Are you freaking out at this point, thinking like, what's going to happen to my niece?
We were freaking out, but this took place over a 7-year period, and you can't freak out for 7 years. So we got really good at departmentalizing it. I give her mother all the credit in the world. Lynn is a nurse. She has other children. But she, we never forgot Brianna. We never ignored her, but we appropriately lived our lives and continued to always meet and always do whatever we could. The best thing was when Brianna learned within a year that she wasn't going to stay with Gabe. So even though she was in the cult for 7 years, she was only with Gabe for a year. And we got her out in the middle of the night. She left LA. She had come home, and there were a few breaking points where she came home and was just a shell of herself, crying, shaking. We even tried taking her to the doctors. They don't know what to do with her. We wanted them to say she should go to a psych ward, and they were like not at that level yet. And she didn't know what to do. She would just follow us and cry, but she wanted to be with us, and we let her. We just let her be and hugged her, and so we would be having coffee, talking about random things or playing cards, and she would just be with us, but not. And she would cry and shake, and she would dry heave. I mean, she was very ill. And she would say, I can't go back. I can't go back. And then she would go back, and we would be devastated. That happened I want to say it happened twice. And then the last time she came home and said, I'm going to leave it. She had 2 dogs. She said, I'm going to leave one dog here and go back and say, I have to come home for Thanksgiving. And that's why I didn't take the dog home. And she ended up sneaking out in the middle of the night. We got her a plane ticket. She sent stuff home, and she drove off in the middle of the night, the same night, the very night that we were filming a documentary. And we didn't even tell anyone, any of the producers at Amazon, that she was sneaking out that night, because so many times it didn't happen and we couldn't risk anything jeopardizing that. So when she did get home, she was an absolute wreck and finally done with Gabe. But now she's mad, and she's determined to stay in the cult because she's made a community, and she's going to fix it. She's going to fix it because they're doing wrong things, but they kept pressuring her to go back with Gabe. So it was this weird dynamic for another I want to say 2022, so another 2 years where she was still connected to them, but slowly adapting more and more to normal life. It's a process. It is a process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. Even the recovery process takes a lifetime. But it's interesting that you talked about Brianna leaving a dog behind. It's like a ducks in a row situation. Once the doubt is there, it only has to build before the dam breaks wide open. So the doubt must have already been there for her to have the foresight to say, I'm going to leave a dog here and I have a reason to come home. They can't deny me that. So she already knows how
She
they're
knew.
working. She's
Yeah.
working it out without maybe realizing explicitly what it is that's happening. And I think that from a psychology standpoint is a really fascinating process to examine. And thank goodness that happened. She was able to come home and eventually, as you say, not return. But it takes a long time to get there. It takes such a long time. Is Gabe the name that Gretchen
Yep.
would
I could share that.
take on?
Yeah. So I will share Gabe.
So Brianna moves to LA. They have this retreat. The reporter goes there. She has a look at what's going on. Do you get any feedback about Brianna at that time?
She was fabulous. She called me. We had specific questions. She said, I don't see any use of drugs. I don't see any abuse sexually. I do think it's a cult. I got weird, it's very weird what's going on. Gabe was quiet. Brianna is definitely bubbly and energetic and excited and did a lot of talking. And she looks healthy.
Okay. So that's reassuring
Yes,
for you
it
at
was.
that point.
It was.
Which name does Gretchen use currently?
Gabe. Gretchen uses Gabe. I only start out saying Gretchen so
Okay.
you get the impact of like, what do you mean you're going to live with Gretchen? So Gretchen has transitioned. Last that we knew, he had upper surgery and he's taking hormones. Now that was 3 years ago. I don't know anything else beyond that. But they like to use these as ads. And, they're so coercive. I mean, so they take sad pictures of Gretchen and then they go, look at how transformed Gretchen is now. But you know what? I will share one more picture. And all of these pictures are online. So I don't think I'm doing anything out of school.
Okay.
And that's Gabe today. And Gabe he still believed when Brianna left that they were supposed to be together and he would try to get him to be with her. And I mean, to me, it doesn't even look like the same person. Very different. So, and that's not to body shame anyone. That's just to say, like, this is what they've done. I think they transitioned 16 people and they have them living now in Michigan in like a compound. And a year ago from July, their compound was raided by the Attorney General and the Michigan police, and they're building their case against them. And I send them all of my YouTube stuff, and they asked to speak with Brianna, and I don't know what happened with those conversations. Like that's not something I don't even ask about it.
So do you know if Gabe was living at the compound at the time it was raided?
Yes, he was.
And this is such a heartbreaking situation because if they tell Gabe, well, they won't. I doubt that any leadership would take responsibility for the twin flames claim that him and Brianna are supposed to be together. So Gabe will just live this life feeling betrayed by Brianna, feeling like Brianna is rejecting their calling, their soul connection.
I think Jeff has come out and said that he had there's a name for it, it's like a mistake, a misvision or something with Brianna and Gabe. Like they came up with a reason. Like he had a mismemory. I'm not thinking of the right term that he used, but so maybe he's trying to find another match for Gabe. But it is terrible. And
given that's heartbreaking because of all of everything that's gone into, that supposed like soul connection relationship, then moving together, living together, the difficulty of like Brianna coming home and then Gabe trying to get her to come back, like even that on its own is such a complicated and difficult situation. So either way you cut it, they've caused so much damage.
You made mistakes? What? Like you can't it's like a surgeon taking the wrong leg. You can't make a mistake, you know? Yeah, that has problems. One thing that happened, one story I'll share with you, and this was really hard for us to do, but we felt like they were trying to make Brianna cut all ties with us. And we felt it. And she was, getting her own phone because, kids stay on their family. My kids were on my phone plan and they're in their 30s. That never ends. And she wanted her own phone. She wanted her own everything. And she said, I'm coming home, Mom, to pick up all my documents. I want my birth certificate, my social security card. I want my pretty white dress. And we're like, oh my gosh, she's going to get married. So her and Gabe were swinging by a Saturday morning. And of course, the sisters showed up at Lynn's house and for coffee. And we just happened to be there when she came. And we just jumped up and hugged Gabe and hugged Brianna and stay, let's go out to lunch. And they couldn't wait to leave. And Lynn said, Brianna, honey, you didn't give me enough time. Everything's at the bank in the PO box, or the safe. And she doesn't even have a safe, right? But she's like, she wasn't giving her documents. And she was just like, and she took her dress, but we think that would have had a different outcome and we were like, come to vacation with us, Gabe. Like we would just love bomb them to death. And they left and they weren't there more than 30 minutes. They couldn't wait to get away from us. They bought the whole story about not having the documents and they left without them. And we are grateful that they never got she never got her documents.
And some situations, those documents can be revoked, or not revoked, but those documents can be taken by leadership as well and held.
That's the feeling we got. So that was the feeling we got. We thought if she gets, like, why would she need these all of a sudden? What is happening? So yeah, that was one visit that I'll never forget. It was awkward. They didn't want to, poor Gabe. I just felt bad for Gabe. I did. I'm thankful that Brianna wasn't the one that was forced to transition. I'm thankful that she always kept a lifeline to us. And we just vacationed. We do it every summer. She was with her new, boyfriend, and she was better than she's ever been. And she was great.
It's a really hopeful message to any listeners who have loved ones inside an abusive environment, I think. And it's important to highlight those moments where we can, because these conversations are often full of dark themes and experiences, but hope is always important. So that's our message of hopefulness for today. I hope we have some more. Hopefully we have some more.
We'll have more. And also, like I said, this is my YouTube channel, but on my YouTube channel, I have my email address. If someone in your family is going through something similar, our goal is to be there for other people. People helped us so much and reach out to us because you don't know where to turn. Part of being in the documentary with Alice Hynes was Amazon provided a therapist, a cult therapist for Brianna for 1 year. She was phenomenal. Her name was Rachel. I think it's Bernstein. I'm not 100% sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And we didn't even tell Brianna that it was a cult therapist for the first 6 months. She just needed someone to talk to and thank goodness Brianna was open to that, right? Yeah, I'll talk. I need some help. And Rachel just was phenomenal and fabulous.
She's fantastic. Brilliant. I think because she's a licensed marriage and family therapist, you don't often immediately assume that she'll also be a cult expert. I believe her father was involved in the cult education world as well. So it's kind of like, again, keeping it in the family. Yeah. So I think that's great. And she's just, such a powerhouse of information and support. Yeah,
I hope to pay it forward by educating people. I hope in the future, maybe when I retire from cybersecurity, I go to colleges and I just talk to young adults and make them aware. And it opened my eyes. Honestly, Kacey, never really looked into Scientology. I knew it was something, but it didn't affect me. And now I'm like, how do we support these actors that like, shame on me, shame on everyone. Same thing with the Mormon church. Like I have zero tolerance. I'm from Boston, so I would swear, but I won't on your channel. I have zero tolerance for cults. I don't even care if you've gone off the deep end for CrossFit. I'm not tolerating it. Or your MLMs, like get out of here. And I'm going to spread awareness on that.
I always say, if you want to curse, it's your story to tell. So you tell it however you want. That's what I always say.
Unfortunately, I did drop the F-bomb and they kept it in the Amazon documentary. So I think it's just part of like, it was part of my story. You're right. It was just part of how I told the story.
Yeah. And I mean, this content is always going to be explicit because of everything that's discussed. So if you want to throw a few curse words in there as well, I don't think.
Thank you.
So I've jumped around a lot with this timeline. I've kind of pulled you off in different directions, which I have a tendency to do. I apologize to you and the listeners.
I feel like I've done that to you, so I apologize too.
So Kacey, keep it coherent. So what I'll do is I will say March 2020, Brianna says, I want to go to LA. I need to go. I mean, I leave my dog with you. I need to go. And that's what I'm going to do. Can you talk us through the timeline of how things happened after that point in terms of Brianna's involvement with the Twin Flames universe and what you're doing at the same time in order to try and work out what is actually happening? I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to interrupt. I might make some notes and ask you afterwards, but you tell us your timeline.
So yeah, March of 2020, she goes, and by the summer, she's at the compound in Michigan. We're concerned. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. That's it. So she joins in like 2019. In March, she goes. We're investigating. We're talking to people. We're hiring a cult consult. She's in Michigan. I'm in touch with Amy. That's over 2020. 2021, she's coming home and she's not happy. And again, we're just, she makes the visit with Gabe that I mentioned. And we see that she's not happy, but she's also determined to make it work. And where she would come home for holidays, she missed one summer vacation, which was very unlike her. She would come home for holidays though, and she would try to, with the other cousins that are her age, my sons and my sister's kids, she would try to get them interested. Like, I want to talk about the mirror exercise or the mind alignment process. And they were nice, but they were like not interested at all. And it wasn't really until that just continued to be the normal flow. She'd come and visit and then leave again. And she would say things like, I'm not happy. In April of 2022, she just came home and said, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I don't, she actually came home and said, Mom, Gabe is a woman. Like, this is all crazy. Gabe's a woman. And Lynn was like, yeah, Gabe's a woman and this isn't right. And we thought we had her. I described her demeanor, but it's really important to reiterate her mental health had deteriorated. She couldn't hold down her job. She was not eating. She was so skinny. She was shaking. She was dry heaving. Stayed with Lynn for 6 months and went back. And that was the heartbreaking one, because we thought we had her home. And then by 2022, she, when it was the same time that we were doing the documentary, she didn't know that we were filming the documentary. We didn't tell her until it was done. But the year of 2022, so she'd been out in LA for 2 years. That's when she came home. She stayed the longest, which was almost 3 months. She bought 4 return tickets. And the first one she didn't get on. The second one she didn't. So 4 nights in a row she had tickets, and then she got on. And we were like, oh my goodness. We were devastated. But that's when she came home for Thanksgiving that year and said, I'm not going back. So I'm going to keep the dog here and just say I'm coming back for Christmas to get the dog. And we ended up doing it, and like I said, in the middle of the night, the day that we're filming the documentary. We know, we're praying that she gets up in the middle of the night and leaves with her other dog and all her things and comes home, and she did. Then so now she's home. It's 2023, and she's home, but she's not out of the cult. She's still doing, the biggest thing was she wouldn't give up the Devine dish. That's control on their part. They're making money off of these recipes. So it's recipes that they say that they're very rich, carb rich. I don't know the theory behind that. So she pays for these recipes, but it's a control thing. They tell her what to eat. She has to eat those ingredients. And she did that for another year and a half. And and finally in 2025 she stopped everything completely.
During all of this time, when you're watching this from your point of view and your perspective, have you and Brianna spoken since? Has she filled in any of the gaps and give you any insight into why she'd lost so much weight, or why the doubts started in the first place, and what she was doing in those times where she couldn't really decide, or she couldn't make that final jump to
Brianna
leave
has
the
asked
group?
us not to talk about it with her yet. So we're very close. The summer while she was still, I mean, this was just last summer before she was completely out on vacation. She wouldn't talk if our cell phones were near us. Like, there was a lot of paranoia with AI and the voices. They're always listening. So we were just so happy that we got Brianna back and that she's normal. And we said, do you mind if Auntie does a podcast and my sisters are all part of it, they come on? And she said, no, I love it, but I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to be involved. Like, she's still processing it. And we give her that space and grace that she needs to do that.
Absolutely.
And when she's ready
Absolutely.
to, she will. When she's ready to, she will.
You mentioned there's some kind of paranoia around electronic devices and all things to do with the digital side of things, which I understand more so if you've been in a digital cult. And some people talk about how they can't journal anymore because they were forced to journal as a child in the cult. So as an adult, that's not a therapeutic tool that would be helpful for them. So Brianna's relationship with technology in general, I imagine, is a very difficult thing, and having to work through that side of things. From your perspective as a cybersecurity specialist, do you believe that maybe they were filming them without their knowledge, recording them without their knowledge, and what things can you do for Brianna, or things have you suggested that she can do to protect herself in that space?
I don't think they were. I don't think they're that sophisticated. I think they just chase the dollar, and it's not that deep with them. I think they convinced people through mind control that, and that was the weird thing. Like, if you watch the documentary, you see how they talked to them. They were so abusive and so mean. It's like, and the same, I know the same is true in domestic abuse relationships. You wonder, like, why would you stay? But you're beyond that point. You can't even ask that question. They're the victim. They're looking for the love and validation from Jeff and Shaleia. So they would treat him like crap, like, you didn't clean, or you didn't cook well, or you didn't do this well. And I think it's all show. I think they convinced them that they were looking at everything, and they controlled so much of their life. I think they abused them with work. So Brianna would work a full day, and then she'd stay up all night coaching and doing their website and doing labor, physical labor for them. And that's a form of control, and it exhausts you. That could attribute, I would think, to the weight loss. And her nerves were shot because she's fighting with the belief system that here's the thing. Brianna's an extremely independent, stubborn, strong woman who had a moment of weakness. And a perfect candidate for a cult, because once they get you in, it's your fierce independence that's going to keep you in there, and not admit that you made a mistake, that you wasted money, you wasted time, wasted resources, and didn't listen to other people. So it's important to always remember that she's a victim, and we never, I wouldn't say everyone in the family believes this. My husband's has anger. He didn't even watch the documentary. He's angry. He was pissed. He wanted get her out. What is that? Like zero tolerance. So he loves Brianna, but this was very upsetting to him. Where we it was upsetting to all of us, but people process it differently. And Nippy, who is Sarah's husband, helped me understand that because he felt that way too. Like very like, let's go get him. Let's bring her home. And they also told me because Brianna is so creative, her source of relaxation could be poured into music. Because I asked, what do you recommend that she does that's helpful to get back to your point? So Sarah does an Epsom salt bath every night. Like find something that's good for you. And I think she does it with her dogs and walking and pour it back into a creative outlet because she is very creative.
I think you're exactly right as well about um, there's a big misconception. I know that I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. There's a big misconception about the type of person that is recruited into a cult. Of course, that's not true for people born and raised in cultic environments, but for a person recruited into a cult, that's why sometimes people say join a cult, recruited into a cult. There's a lot of talk around the right terminology to use in these situations, but it's often when cult members are made to be deployable. So they are coached and groomed and coerced in a way that makes them able to go out into the world with instructions and goals and targets to recruit other people in. The algorithm by Google, I mean, kind of did half the work in this situation. But it's often the traits that you've described Brianna having that will be the traits that are targeted by cult recruiters or by leadership. They want people that are loyal and smart and intelligent and warm and dedicated. These are all traits that benefit the cult and the leadership. And once there's a vulnerability, like looking for love, who isn't looking for love? Everybody is looking for love in one way or another. I'd love to have a dog. I had a dog as a kid. So one of the best loves of my life. I'd love to have the love of a dog again. Do you find the right dog? Does the dog choose you? I mean, that's the very simple one. But what I'm saying is all of the things that come with, being integrated into a community, whether that's a physical community where you meet people in proximity or one that you keep in your back pocket, like with the Twin Flames universe for the most part. So I think what you said there about having a vulnerability exploited and having all of these beautiful, wonderful traits as an individual exploited as well, all to benefit the leadership of the cult is a really sad thing. But it's important to highlight that as we go through because you're not a weak person. You don't have a lower IQ. There is nothing wrong with anybody that is recruited into a cult. Actually, what I would say is that, there is something in you as an individual that the cult wants to exploit. There is something there that makes you such a great person and such a wonderful individual that the cult wants to use those things. So it's really heartbreaking to hear about the situation that Brianna was in, the state that you saw her in when she came home. It sounds like she's in a great place now, really kind of doing well in her recovery journey.
She is.
What do you do now? Do you just kind of like you check in? You've said you don't push. You're all just there as a big warm support network for her, just kind of keeping her wrapped up.
So, first of all, thank you for saying that. I had an interesting exchange with a YouTube creator who went on. She's just a bully, but she said to the effect, "Well, my family. I don't know what's going on in your family because my family would never be in a cult. I could tell you that right now. My kids." And I thought, okay, would you ever say that about like my God forbid, just don't say that. My kid would never be an addict. My kid, like, who says that? So thank you, because I was shocked by the words. I thought, wow, that took a turn. So thank you. And luckily we kept things normal. So like I always host the 4th of July party. So her and her boyfriend came, um, Thanksgiving, the vacation, it's normal. And we kept it normal, even when, which people think like, what do you mean? Should we just show up and cry? Yep. We just like let her be. I know it sounds bizarre and she was going through it and it was weird, but we didn't let her not show up. We just didn't. And I just think that helped. So now it's just continued. It's not about the cult. It's still about Brianna. What are you doing? Where are you working? I'm excited. Let's go walk the dogs. It's not about the cult.
And you can always say as well, what do you need in this moment? When you're sad, do you want us to leave you in that space? Do you want to have that space? Or would you like us to support you in some way? What does that support look like? And I think it's always uncomfortable when we don't know how to react to situations. When that happens, like I remember going to pick my kids up and one of the school mums was just sobbing in the school line. And I was like, does she want me to
Right.
acknowledge this, or is it best if I like
Right.
But sometimes the best thing you can do is just say to a person like, what do you need right now?
I love
Do
that.
you want support,
I
or
love
do you
that.
want me to just
Yeah. I'm
leave you
really big
alone?
on just acknowledging someone. That's all. And so
Yeah.
now there is no sadness in her. She's happy, she's vibrant, she has a great job, and we're really proud of her. But you make a really good point. I don't think avoidance is, and it's funny because you see different, I think about my own internal family, and definitely some people would just rather avoid someone crying. I've never been like that. I acknowledge it. I have to like acknowledge
That's
it.
busted. That's busted.
And to your point, I don't want to fix it. I just want to acknowledge it, and you tell me what you need. Yeah.
What parallels are you able to draw in your cybersecurity work with like how cyber criminals manipulate people online and how groups like this operate? Do you see crossovers and parallels?
I I want to say yes, but I probably don't. So the type of work that I do is against nation state attackers, and when they're attacking, critical infrastructure in the world. So countries like Russia, China, Iran, Iraq, they have cyber criminals that are using technology, using AI, using password sprays or advanced persistent threats, APTs, and just trying to hone in and break in. There's not really a lot of mind control. And that's what I view this as. This was strictly mind control. What I deal with is fighting technology control and who's got the better technology. AI is great for helping them get faster and smarter, but we're using it too to get more scalable models to take down those cyber criminals. So I don't see it. What I do see is, boy, I was just stupid. I mean, someone comes to me today, any of our kids, and says, I'm so excited about this new community I'm in. I'm joining. I'm joining. And who would think that at 24 you would need to do that? We need to be aware. And we all missed it collectively, everyone in the family, except her brother. He did warn us, and we were like, no, it's fine. Our mistake was she was an adult. She was a functioning adult. She had just returned from Thailand where she taught for a year. She was thriving, right? And got a new job in technology. So never thought to double down and check. Like, well, let me look into it. And that was our mistake. Always look into it.
You've already mentioned that you want to be able to educate others on your experience, things that you kind of were maybe early red flags that you didn't pick up on. Is that your main kind of inspiration for starting your YouTube channel?
It was. So we talked about it for a year before we did it. The raid happened in July. Brianna was completely out by September, completely done. So October, I said, and my sisters were encouraging me. They were, because I said I'll do it. I'll start a channel, and I'm in cyber, so it's Cyber Chick Boston. And my very first show, I just told our story. And we have a good community. Lynn is connected, Brianna's mother's connected to other mothers whose children are still in twin flames. One mother, Louise, I had her on my show. Her daughter is a twin, and they haven't talked to her in 7 years. They don't know if she's dead or alive. Last they heard, she was paired up with someone in Switzerland. Same thing with a woman trapped, and a man trapped in a woman's body. She cut off ties. She doesn't, and so heartbreaking. So yeah, that was the goal, is to have people on. But honestly, what happened, we going through all of my messages and all of the conversations I had after about, and I did a little bit culty, and I reached out to people because I want to hit different audiences. After about 3 months, it got to be too much because now we're reliving it, right? And we all have PTSD from it, although different levels, right? And so it was just heavy. So then I started to do fun things on my channel. So every Tuesday night, I have sister night, and the sisters come on and we're silly and we fight or we laugh, whatever. We're just, that's actually taken off because one sister, Lynn, Brianna's mother, didn't want to have anything to do with YouTube. So she would come on and be like in the dark. And now she is in all these YouTube chats and people know Sister Lynn. It's hysterical. So last week, Sister Lisa left. She was so mad at us. She left the show, but then she came back. We're funny. So, and Thursdays, I do Cyber Thursday. So I started to like YouTube and said, I'll do some other things, not just the cults. So that it's just sort of evolved. But also YouTube is weird. It's a lot weirder than I thought.
I mean, it can be. It can be. It's a weird and wonderful place, strange place, dark place. It's all of the. It's
It's
all of the
all of them.
things.
I've
But
got a
it's
wonderful community, a fabulous community, but then there's also this side community with this drama that is very strange. So it's been a wild learning experience, and I love learning new things, and I love learning StreamYard and trying to figure out what's the best way to get the most out of the technology. So, yeah, it's been fun.
sounds great. Sounds great. I want to hang out with Sister Lynn. She sounds awesome.
She's hysterical. She's hysterical.
I want to come for dinner one time with all the family.
That's what they all say. Everyone
And
says that. Like, can we come for Thanksgiving? I'm like, sure.
yeah, that would be so good. That sounds great. So, in terms of like wrapping up our conversation today and just kind of ending on some advice and guidance for people that may have found this content and are wondering what they can do in their own situation, what early warning signs would you tell a family to watch for if they had a loved one that they suspected or that they know is involved in a situation like this?
Yeah, so the word cult is intimidating and scary and not familiar. So I would say don't focus so much on the term, but any type of behavior that's taking you out of your normal activity that seems obsessive. So you're contributing more funds than you typically normally would or should. That's a red flag, right? You're spending more time with a certain doing something. Let's use CrossFit. Like you're obsessed over CrossFit, that you're doing that instead of being with your family, or you're always thinking and talking about it and it's occupying all of your time. These are just behaviors that can lead towards an unhealthy type of relationship or obsession. And so that would be my, just and look into it. And what happens if they've already joined or they're far down the path? Don't try to course correct them, first of all, because you can't. They have to course correct themselves. But you can always offer love and hope. One story I didn't tell you is what they like to do is blame the family. And you mentioned this. They will blame your family or your friends. Look at how we love you, but look at how they treated you. And they couldn't find anything in Brianna's thought patterns, and they kept digging that they could point to. So they said in World War II, her great grandfather did something that was horrific, and that's her stress. I mean, it was crazy. So, always be there, even if it feels unnatural, provide the person a soft landing, provide them with love, and don't lecture them. Have an open mind. Say, teach me about that, because that makes them want to talk with you, and then you have a connection. And these are not, I knew none of these when she first went in. Just to be clear, these are things that we learned through a consultant. We read his book. We paid him. He met with us, and through ex-cult members.
And what are some key things you hope people will take away from listening to your story, whether that be here or in the Amazon documentary or on your YouTube channel?
So first of all, you never know what people are going through, right? So just be kind and be open. Don't be judgmental. That was the other thing, is how many mean things people would say about the family or Brianna. Like, that's not necessary. It's not helpful. But also, you don't want to pry, just listen. Sometimes people are so focused on talking and speaking their words that we've lost the art of listening to what people are saying. And if I listened to Brianna early on, it could have had a different outcome. I'm not sure. I don't blame myself, but I would listen to what people are saying to you.
It's been so great to chat with you today, Cheryl. It sounds like your family and the situation and all the things that you've done are some really great examples of what others can do in their own situations to support a loved one that is in a situation of coercive and controlling behavior or cultic abuse, like such a warm, strong family support network, and it gives the individual a loving place to return to that they know is still there. No bridges are burned. The love, the support, and the compassion is through your own research and all of these things that you've done, through learning about all of these things and wanting to understand how you can support her best. You've done all of the things. And I think if we can take some of that away from our conversation today and apply it to our everyday relationships, and especially the ones that mirror some of the things you've talked about today, then I think we're one step closer to solving the problem of, what is a cult? No one has a clue, but we all need to know because they're rife and they're everywhere.
And how do we avoid it? Thank you so much, Kacey. I appreciate it.
It's been so great to chat. I'll put the Cyber Chick Boston YouTube link in the episode description, and I'll also put a link to the Amazon documentary as well into the episode description in case any of the listeners want to go and check that out. And all there is for me to say is thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, everyone, for listening.